Hello everyone, in this compilation we'll show you some astonishing footage we've captured. We'll witness unique natural phenomena, explosive volcanic eruptions, extraordinary man-made disasters, and impressive explosions. Successful and not so successful robberies, incredible natural disasters, and some funny and adorable situations. Major car accidents, incidents at construction sites, and just funny situations that were recorded by chance. We'll also see funny and cute moments caught on camera. Make sure to like this video right away. Your support motivates us to create more interesting compilations for you. Are you ready? Let's get started then. A group of guys decided to set off fireworks, but they didn't choose the best location for it. They lit them near a dry tree and a palm tree. Just a few sparks were enough to start a fire. The flames spread very quickly. At first, they tried to extinguish it with a garden hose, but it was clearly not enough, as the fire spread at a furious pace and the sparks flew in all directions, which could have caused an even bigger fire. They had to call the firefighters, who quickly managed to contain the blaze. This is why you should always be careful when setting off fireworks. This is how rocks and mountain formations are split. A lot of explosives are used for this. Holes are drilled in the necessary places where dynamite is placed, and upon command, a simultaneous detonation occurs, breaking the solid rock into small pieces. This cat decided to find something tasty in the supermarket. He entered the store and started searching for something to snack on. Wandering between the shelves, he found a box of sausages and stole one. A while later, he returned, but this time with a friend, heading to the familiar spot. At first, the ginger cat seemed to disawed him, but after catching the scent, he wanted to eat too. The store clerks were watching this through the security cameras, but decided not to scare the cats and see what they would do next. The two four-legged thieves started pulling out sausages one by one. The cats pulled out a few sausages, trying to open the packaging, but they weren't very successful, so they scattered them on the floor. Eventually, the cat grabbed one treat and left the store. During an extreme driving competition, one of the drivers attempted to climb a steep hill in a homemade off-roader. He started confidently, but at one point, something went wrong. Pay attention to the front wheels as they twisted in opposite directions, almost falling off. With such a problem, he couldn't make it to the finish line, and the vehicle slid down to the bottom of the hill. Watch how it came to a stop near the crowd. People started gathering around to see what had happened. The driver was probably disappointed that his vehicle broke down, but he surely put on a great show. A man spotted a massive boulder rolling down a steep hill and managed to capture it on his phone. Take a look. It resembles a giant bowling ball that knocks over a road sign and lands epically in the water, splashing it all around. The people on the bridge were overwhelmed with emotions, cheering with excitement. It's not every day you get to see something like this. A backhoe driver at an old machinery junkyard got a little bored and decided to play with an old airplane. He grabbed his fuselage and started spinning it around as if it were a huge toy plane. The guy who filmed it probably wished he could play like that too. A cat was watching the Olympic Games on TV with its owner. It seemed to be enjoying watching a Canadian athlete perform tricks. Just look at how attentively it follows the action. But at one moment, the cat tried to grab the athlete and he slipped off the bar. It's incredible how the timing matched up. It almost seemed like the cat ruined his career. In China's Zhangjiang National Park, there is one of the most unusual and fastest elevators in the world. People took out their phones and started filming as they ascended at an impressive speed, nearly 5 meters per second. The view behind the glass looks like rain pouring down a window, but in reality, tourists are seeing the inside of a rock shaft. When the cabin leaves the shaft, an incredible landscape appears before them. It feels like they're flying a rocket, watching the beauty around them. Everyone wants to capture this on their phones. The elevator rises to a height of 326 meters. Oh, by the way, the views of these mountains inspired some of the locations in the movie Avatar. When a high-speed train moves during rain, it literally shatters the raindrops into tiny sprays. This creates something that looks like a fog or steam around the train. It's as if a ghost train has rushed down the tracks. These frames show a series of explosions in the Tianjin port of China in August 2015. The explosions occurred at a container storage station. Initially, people saw one explosion, but a few seconds later, a much more powerful one followed, magnitude stronger. 800 tons of ammonium nitrate exploded, which is roughly 256 tons in TNT equivalent. Fires caused by the initial explosions kept on burning uncontrollable for several days. While the fire was being fought, several more explosions occurred. The tragedy resulted in 173 deaths and hundreds of injuries. This explosion looks terrifying. A huge fireball lit up everything around. It could be seen for tens of kilometers as the sparks flew caused further ignition. The people who recorded this decided to move to a safer location after the second explosion. A driver and his friend were trying to pull out of a driveway during an ice storm. The road was covered in ice and snow. The friend decided to supervise, but it didn't help much. The slope was too steep, and the car nearly hit him. Luckily, there were no other cars out on the road, or it could have ended in a crash. That's why it's best to just stay home in bad weather. A man saw a cow walking on the roof of a house. The animal seemed calm and confident, like it had done this before. It's unclear how the cow got up there or how they got it down afterwards. Watching this video raises more questions than answers. It feels like a fever dream. What do you think happened here? A fisherman used a camera to capture the underwater world. One fish, which appeared on camera, was particularly interested in the bait. It started chasing its prey. Look at its face. It's like something out of a horror movie. It's truly creepy when you see the look on its face and it begins to chase, almost like a scene from Jaws. Two guys decided to go for a swim in the sea near a resort, but the water became rough. Strong waves began to batter them and pull them further from the shore. This is extremely dangerous, as they could have drowned. They began swimming with all their strength towards the shore. Just look at how fast they started paddling. It's truly exhausting. Several men on the shore noticed what was happening and rushed out to help. One of them jumped into the water and swam towards them, while others ran to the shoreline to grab them once they got closer. They even brought a life ring. Fortunately, the men made it back to shore safely. Thank goodness there were caring people nearby who immediately sprang into action. A dash cam recorded a very dangerous situation on the road. The driver was calmly approaching an intersection when he nearly witnessed a terrible accident. A distracted woman broke traffic rules and almost got hit by a truck. However, the truck driver managed to react quickly and stop in time. Unbelievably, there were only a few centimeters left before impact. It's scary to imagine what could have happened if he hadn't reacted so fast or if the brakes had failed. He got out of the cab to check if there had been any collision. Just look at his reaction. He was visibly upset and furious at the woman's carelessness. Other drivers also got out to make sure everything was okay. The woman approached the truck driver, holding her head, likely realizing that this could have ended in tragedy. A polar bear at the zoo has an unusual toy, an old traffic cone. He uses it like a mask, judging by the state of the cone. It's his favorite toy that he can't part with. He even chewed it to make holes for his eyes. Perhaps now he imagines himself as a diver or a submarine in the makeshift armor. At first glance, it might seem like these workers are trying to drown a truck, but in reality this is a rather unusual way to cross a body of water. The water isn't deep, so the vehicle can drive across the bottom. It seems like these guys have never heard of ferries or safety protocols. A man witnessed an electrical short circuit in an alleyway. He stood around the corner and started filming. Just look at those bright sparks. It is extremely dangerous to get too close. It almost feels like at any moment the Terminator will step out of the alley, just like in a movie. Have you ever seen a pickup being transported on a truck, which is being transported on another truck, which is being transported on another truck? Quite an unusual way to transport vehicles. Perhaps the driver is delivering 3 trucks to their destination, and the pickup is his own vehicle that he'll drive home. In mountain quarries, you can find incredibly beautiful minerals. They're called geodes. These crystals formed hundreds of thousands of years ago. Their sizes can be impressive, with some having a diameter of over a meter. You could spend a long time examining their structure, which resembles huge salt or sugar crystals. These volcanic rocks are usually used to make jewelry because of their beautiful structure and transparency. Geologists also use them for local studies. Large clusters of crystals are often difficult to extract without damaging due to their size, as shovels, pickaxes, and hammers are used for this purpose. This is a simple but effective way to unload a haystack on a sloping pasture. The stack is loaded onto a trailer, and then the vehicles reverse. After that, the vehicle brakes sharply, causing the haystack to fall and start spreading out. This way, you don't need to spend a lot of time and effort to feed the animals. Just a bit of ingenuity. Notice how the helper dog in the field assists the farmer in herding the flock of sheep. A ship collided with a boat carrying bricks, which immediately started to sink. A few people panicked and jumped overboard, while the rest moved to the highest point of the boat. However, the vessel sank within seconds due to its heavy cargo. Fortunately, everyone was rescued and no one was injured. In China, there are entire districts of high-rise buildings and unfinished structures that were never completed. This is because there weren't enough buyers to finish the construction. As a result, these structures have stood like ghosts for decades. Periodically, they are demolished. Special crews use explosives to turn the skyscrapers into piles of rubble in an instant. Sometimes, though, things don't go as planned, and the structure falls onto the construction site. People have to quickly flee to safety. I mean, just look at this impressive scene where several high-rises fall like houses of cards. An incredible incident occurred. A fox got stuck in the radiator grill of a car. How exactly it ended up there remains a mystery, as the fox was too large to squeeze through the slats. The animal was trapped and started gnawing at the grill to free itself. It was probably curious about what was inside the car. The driver was shocked to find the animal in such an unusual spot. Just look at how it chewed up the grill. The damage on the car was significant, but the owner didn't seem to mind. He was more fascinated by his unexpected guest. At some point, the fox calmed down, seemingly accepting that no matter how much it gnawed, it wouldn't escape. The car owner even tried to cheer it up. However, he couldn't free the fox by himself. The animal was too aggressive and could have easily bitten him, so veterinarians had to be called for help. To ensure the fox didn't hurt anyone or itself, they gave it a sedative. Don't worry, the fox is fine and is sound asleep. After some effort, the vets freed him from the trap and gave him a checkup. It turned out to be a male fox. The veterinarians were amazed at how it managed to squeeze itself inside the car. This was the first time rescuing an animal from such a place. The fox was taken back to its natural habitat and released. Hopefully, he won't get into such trouble again and he'll learn to stay away from cars. A man witnessed a large number of helicopters flying by and caught it on camera. It was likely a rehearsal for a military parade, as soldiers were lined up nearby. However, something went wrong and two helicopters collided. Hundreds of debris pieces scattered through the air. Within seconds, the helicopters plummeted to the ground. The soldiers on the square probably didn't realize what was happening, as they didn't even flinch. Debris started falling to the ground, and only then did everyone realize there had been an air disaster. A young man decided to relive his childhood by going down a very long slide. At first, he was having fun, and his friends who were filming were laughing. But sliding down wasn't the best idea. He bounced up and landed hard on his backside before tumbling into the sand, somersaulting several times. Something tells me there should have been a pool at the bottom, as the slide wasn't meant to end with injuries. The instructions said the moped was suitable for carrying cargo, but this guy might have overdone it a bit. Where do you think he's taking a car on that moped? This is probably one of the most dangerous and creative ways to demolish a bridge. Using an excavator, they destroyed the supports, and an entire span of the bridge exploded while the machine hung in the air on special cables, just as planned. The excavator operator must have nerves of steel to agree to such extreme work. In the Czech Republic, they hold tractor races with obstacle courses. This turns into a real festival with thousands of spectators and dozens of participants. Tractor drivers race at high speeds through a challenging obstacle course with sharp turns, hills, and pits. Just look at how skillfully this driver maneuvers the tractor, rapidly turning the wheel and shifting gears. You need to be one with your machine to handle such a heavy and seemingly unwieldy tractor. The track has some quite dangerous sections where you need to slow down and pass very carefully to avoid flipping over. Parts of the road are covered in mud, and there are even smaller water obstacles to overcome. On difficult sections, the driver bounces in his seat and barely holds onto the frame. Notice how he doesn't have a seatbelt, which would definitely help him stay in place. Would you like to see such a show in person? Let us know down in the comments. A bird decided to dance with a child. The little girl started jumping near the enclosure. The bird liked it, so it spread its wings and began to mimic her movements. They clearly found reports and entertained the people watching nearby. A ship leaving the port miscalculated the distance and accidentally hit a concrete platform. Its right side took a heavy blow, strong enough for everyone on board to feel it. Several dozen meters of metal plating were destroyed. The concrete platform itself was also damaged. The ship had to return to the port for repairs. It was saved from sinking because it was a double hull, and only the outer shell was damaged. During a heavy downpour and storm, a man was filming the weather from his window when he witnessed power lines snapping. There was a short circuit and an explosion. With sparks flying onto the road, he started shouting and swearing very emotionally. A very old house literally began to fall apart. The house had been in a dangerous state for years, but people still lived there. They soon heard the house starting to crumble though. Neighbors noticed it too and began filming from their window. They heard strange bangs and cracking sounds. Just look at these peeling walls. The house was in terrible condition. How could anyone have even lived there? The residents began running out of the building. The woman watching saw how the cracks on the walls grew larger. When a car drove by, the vibrations caused a loud rumble. Suddenly, part of the wall on the first floor collapsed, and just a few seconds later, an entire section of the house crashed to the ground. People were shocked by what they saw. A cloud of dust filled the air. Thankfully, this happened during the day and not at night when everyone was sleeping. Otherwise, people could have been trapped under the rubble. This four-legged sports fan could make a great gymnastics coach. A cat was attentively watching the 2024 Olympics and saved a gymnast from falling when she lost her balance. The owners captured this moment on camera. Just look at how perfectly timed everything was. It seems like the cat really helped the gymnast stay up. One of the largest landslides in recent history occurred in the French Alps, and this breathtaking moment was captured on camera. At first, you can see a massive cloud of dust rising from the mountainside. Huge boulders started tumbling down, destroying everything in their path. Just watch how a boulder falls and sinks deep into the ground. It looks like a meteorite impact or a powerful explosion. Stones immediately scatter, and dust shoots up into their air upon impact. Rocks race down the slope at incredible speed, tearing deep trenches and snapping trees. This event showcases the raw power of nature, capable of dramatically altering the landscape in mere minutes. A driver found himself in a dense fog, with visibility reduced to almost nothing. Just look, you can barely see the cars. This caused several accidents. The road is complete chaos. The driver filming this wasn't lucky either, as another car crashed into him. The entire road is littered with wrecked cars. Have you ever thought that you could cross a river not only on a surfboard, gondola, or boat? A woman is doing it on a bamboo pole. The ancient tradition originated thousands of years ago in China. It's amazing how she manages to balance so perfectly. One slip and she'll end up swimming in freezing water, as it's cold and snowing around her. It's better to take a little more time and make 2 trips rather than end up in a situation like this man did. A box fell on the handlebars and pressed the gas. The unlucky courier had to chase after his moped, which drove off on its own with his cargo. A surveillance camera in a quarry captured the moment of a landslide. At that time, there were many heavy machines and people working. Notice how many trucks, cranes, dump trucks, and other special equipment are there. The ground began to slide rapidly. Only a few drivers quickly reacted and began to drive away. Incredibly, within seconds, they were all buried under the debris. A massive layer of earth covered the machinery. A cloud of dust rose up into the air, dozens of workers died, and the equipment was destroyed. A man performed a dangerous stunt by jumping from a great height into a pool. If he had slipped a little or not made it, it could have resulted in some serious injuries. Luckily, it ended well. This looks like 2 friends at a bar after a long work week. I think these chickens have had enough beer. One is already lying down, and the other clearly wants some drunk adventures. This is how a volcanic eruption happens. It looks like a rocket engine. Gas, ash, and smoke shoot out from the mountain under enormous pressure. Large rocks are thrown into the air, scattering hundreds of meters around. Notice that this is not sped up footage. The gas is really escaping extremely fast. You can see red flames at the point where the smoke is coming out. Such eruptions occur when a large amount of gas accumulates underground and suddenly finds a weak spot in the Earth's crust, breaking through it. The excavator operator is demolishing this gigantic cooling tower. He carefully breaks it down, and it looks like it's slicing open a tin can. In an instant, the tower gives way and collapses inward, just like crushing an empty soda can. This is a real river of stones flowing down one of the mountain slopes in Croatia. It is a pretty dangerous phenomenon, so these men are taking a risk standing so close to the flow of dozens of tons of rocks. Have you ever seen giraffes fight? They use their necks for it, swinging them in circles like a club. It's incredible just how powerful they are. I always thought giraffes were peaceful animals, but it turns out they can fight too. A surveillance camera in a jewelry store captured the moment of a robbery. A gang of masked criminals broke through a metal barrier and crawled under to get inside. They moved quickly. One of the thieves began prying open drawers where valuables were stored while his partners grabbed bags to stash the loot. The store didn't have an ordinary security system. In addition to the alarm, which alerted the police, smoke generators were activated. Thick fog started filling the room, making it difficult for the criminals to see or navigate. This method is actually very effective, as it significantly slows down the thieves and helps protect the valuables. In just a few seconds, the room became impossible to see through because of the dense smoke. German police officers probably don't know what their license plates mean and are puzzled by why drivers keep filming their cars and smirking. I wonder if someone will explain the joke to them.
That's the sound of the police! Whoop, whoop. That's the sound of the beast!
I've never seen a police chase a tractor before. The cops managed to flip the massive machine and stop it. Hopefully, no one was hurt. The driver didn't expect such potholes on the road. It was like driving on the moon, covered in craters. His car bounced as he drove over the section. A dash cam almost captured the moment of a terrible accident. The driver of a concrete mixer truck suddenly spotted a small car in front of him and swerved sharply to the left. The massive truck nearly tipped over, but the experienced driver managed to regain control and avoid a crash. Thankfully, everyone walked away unscathed. The driver of a large passenger bus nearly caused an accident. He drifted into the oncoming lane where another car was approaching. Luckily, a collision was avoided at the last second. The driver of the smaller vehicle probably feels like it's his second birthday now. A man poorly parked his bicycle on the road, blocking the path for a larger truck. The truck driver honked and the guy moved his bike out of the way. As the truck driver started to move, the man turned back several times to make sure his bike wasn't in anyone's way anymore. What he didn't expect was that the truck would break through the asphalt and end up halfway in a hole. A very unexpected end to the video. Now they definitely won't be in a hurry. The bus driver pulled up to a stop to pick up passengers, but he certainly didn't expect to see 3 elephants on the roadside. The animals were probably on their way home after a hard day's work at the zoo. None of the bystanders were scared or tried to run away. I wonder how the elephants ended up there. In the video, it seems like motorcyclists are riding up a nearly vertical slope. How did they manage that? But if you look closely, it becomes clear. The cameraman simply tilted the camera, creating the illusion that they were riding up a steep hill. Pilots have their own fun. This man decided to drop a roll of toilet paper from his plane. It started unrolling like a kite and continued flying. The pilot decided to circle around the spot. The roll fully unrolled and kept flying, disappearing and reappearing in view. It resembles the fall of streamers. If you forgot your golf clubs, no worries if you have a shovel on hand. But if you're a builder and forget your shovel, a golf club probably won't help. A street surveillance camera captured the moment of a terrifying car accident. A car was speeding and hit a tram track. There were many pedestrians nearby who were narrowly missed. The car was launched several meters into the air and flipped over. It crashed onto a set of stairs where a few people were walking down. If they had taken just a few more steps, they would have been hit. Incredibly, no one was injured, not even the driver, who only sustained minor injuries. Onlookers gathered to film the aftermath. Look at how the car was thrown onto the stairs. Pieces of the fence and the curb that the car plowed through are scattered all around. Have you ever seen horned snakes? A man spotted one in his garden table and filmed it. He wasn't afraid, so he got really close with his phone. Just look at how beautiful it is. It looks absolutely stunning. This is a special type of horned viper. The horns on its head help protect its eyes from sand when it buries itself, and it also helps ward off predators. This is a venomous snake, very dangerous to humans. Fortunately for the person filming, the snake didn't attack. If I saw a snake on my table, I'd be running far away. How about you? Are you afraid of snakes? In Henan Province, China, a dam burst, which should have led to a disaster and flooded nearby villages. They decided to fix it in an unusual way. Several old trucks filled with sand were dumped into the bridge to try to stop the rapidly expanding water flow. Heavy machinery nearby was working to fill the crack with mud to seal it. Meanwhile, the truck drivers aimed their vehicles at the gap, driving them off the edge. I'm not sure how effective this method is, but they were probably desperate and had to act quickly to prevent a catastrophe. A dash cam captured the sheer power of a tornado. Strong winds were bending trees ahead. Debris and rubble were flying in all directions, carried by the wind. The strong tornado passed right by a parking lot, snapping trees in half. The building started to disintegrate from the force of the wind. It's incredible to witness the power of this tornado. First, the roof is torn off, then the walls are shattered into tiny pieces. Everything is covered in a thick cloud of dust, dirt, and debris, and in just a few seconds, the building is gone, as if it had never been there. The tornado then moved on, destroying everything in its path. A truck carrying a World War II tank was involved in an accident. The tank flipped over onto the other side of the road. Just look at how much damage the truck suffered. It rammed into a concrete barrier, while the tank only got a few scratches on its body. They had to bring in a huge crane to remove the tank from the road. It was set back on its tracks and securely fastened with cables to be loaded onto a new truck. A driver witnessed a truck with a crane misjudging its height and crashing into a bridge. Just look at that impact. Plaster fell from the bridge, and the crane flew off the truck, with its cabin ripped off. Due to the thick dust, it's hard to see what happened to the truck itself. Incredibly, the bridge withstood the collision, although cracks appeared on it. Meanwhile, vehicles, including large trucks, continued driving over the bridge. A man decided to demolish an old house using a rope to pull down a wall. He tugged on it and leaned against another wall to avoid being caught in the collapse. Just look at how tightly he pressed himself. It was extremely dangerous, but luckily, everything ended well for him. An enterprising man decided to save a truck rental and use his car to transport a mountain of mattresses. Incredibly, he managed to fit 20 of them on the roof. He was driving slowly and very carefully while the pile of mattresses swayed from side to side. It looks like the car might tip over at any moment with all those mattresses on top. Bystanders witnessed a movie being filmed. In the scene, a bus crashes into parked cars. Just look at the expression on this woman's face. She didn't realize what was happening, and she was genuinely scared. Her reaction was priceless. This excavator operator is someone to envy because he's demolishing a huge building and is very close to it. Just imagine what steel nerves he must have. When the structure began to fall, a huge cloud of dust rose into the air and enveloped the excavator. It looks like a scene from an epic action movie. The poachers decided to catch fish with a net, but they certainly didn't expect to fight back. The fish attacked the poachers and slapped them quite a bit. Just look at how many fish there are. I've never seen so many in one place. That's why poaching is bad. You might end up with a good beating. An extreme sports enthusiast showed off his skills in the mountains. He had trained for a long time to be able to ride up such a steep hill. At some points, his bike was nearly vertical. It's amazing how he manages to keep his balance and not fall off. A man tried to walk down some wet metal stairs, but they turned out to be too slippery. He couldn't hold on and slid down them like a slide. These stairs are just like something out of Home Alone. It's as if they were greased with oil. A truck driver with a large trailer attempted to navigate a sharp turn, but something went wrong. He tried to be cautious, but there wasn't enough room to maneuver. Just look at how long that trailer is. Did he really think he could make it through there? First, he knocked over a street pole, but then kept going. He probably thought that nothing else could get in his way now, but then his wheels hit an obstacle and blew out. In the end, he made it through the turn, but he had to pay for the damages and replace several tires. This is why you shouldn't mess with dogs when they're not in the mood. A man picked up a dog, but the dog clearly didn't like it and started baring its teeth. Eventually, it scared the man and ran off, barking at him as it went. During a flood, some guys noticed water starting to pour in through the window, flooding the house. They tried to save their belongings, but quickly realized that a few towels on the floor wouldn't help much. So they just watched as the water soaked the table and the floor. At one point, the window gave way and a massive rush of water flooded the first floor. A surveillance camera captured the moment when strong winds lifted and flipped a metal awning that was tied to a post to which a dog was leashed. The poor dog was lifted into the air and left hanging, trapped. It started struggling to free itself, and watching it is truly painful. Thankfully, the leash broke and the dog was able to escape. Don't worry, the dog is fine. A police car was chasing some offenders when another car suddenly appeared next to them. Someone from the car passed the fleeing vehicle a canister, gesturing instructions before driving off. The police officers were confused by what had just happened. At one point, the trunk of the fleeing car opened and oil spilled out. The police car slipped on it and veered off into a ditch. This was probably one of the most creative and epic ways to escape from a police chase. An extreme cyclist decided to ride down a very steep rocky slope, filming the whole thing on an action camera. Some sections were particularly tricky due to the rough terrain and cracks. He had to brake and put his foot down several times to avoid falling. In the end, he couldn't hold on and slid sideways down the steep hill. He wasn't having a lot of fun. A man managed to capture something rather unusual on camera. A bald eagle, not hunting, but fishing. The bird was perched on a roof when it spotted a fish in the water. It swooped down and grabbed the fish with its sharp talons. Struggling to hold onto its catch, the eagle began moving awkwardly, flapping its wings. It almost looks like the bird was so excited about its catch that it started dancing on the water. When it finally pulled the fish onto the shore, the man recording was stunned and amazed at how large the fish was, almost the size of the eagle itself. The fish is going to last a while. A dash cam captured a near-disastrous moment on the highway. A truck's trailer detached while it was moving at high speed. The detached part continued rolling down the road due to inertia, nearly causing a serious accident. A nearby car managed to swerve and avoid a collision just in time. Sparks began to fly as the metal fasteners scraped the asphalt. Fortunately, the truck behaved smartly and veered off to the side, preventing chaos on the road. A true masterpiece was created by a construction crew using an excavator and bulldozers. They made a huge portrait of the Mona Lisa out of sand and various building materials. He uses the bucket like a paintbrush. The excavator operator has a real talent. Remember the super popular snake game on phones? Well, this is a snake game in real life. It slithers between the bricks on a wall. Just look at how smoothly it moves. It fits perfectly between the bricks, as if the wall was built just for it. Did you ever play Snake? Let us know down in the comments. Working in quarries is very dangerous. This excavator fell from a high hill and flipped over several times during the fall. It was destroyed, but thankfully no one was injured in the accident. A man was harvesting in a field and noticed some strange movement in the wheat. He was surprised when an entire family of wild boars ran out. Just look at how funny it is to see these little boars running in a line behind their parents. This is the cutest little tornado I've ever seen. Dozens of inflatable pools being sold on the street were lifted into the air. A colorful whirlwind rose several dozen meters as if it were some kind of celebration. The pools scattered around the area. People were amazed by what they saw and started recording this unusual phenomenon. Some even managed to catch a few pools. The owner probably had to spend a lot of time getting them back. And here's another tower demolition with an excavator. It fell right onto an abandoned building and completely destroyed it. Hopefully that was the plan. If so, then the excavator operator is a real genius. This is probably the worst road I've ever seen in my life. Just look at its condition. It's one pothole after another. The dashcam captured how slowly cars are moving on it. You can't tell how deep the puddles are, so the cars literally bounce when they hit them. After a ride like that, you'll definitely need a trip to the repair shop. The excavator driver caught on video is a true professional. He probably feels like one with the machine. He needed to get down from a ledge, but didn't want to wait for heavy equipment to help, so he used his bucket. First, he broke through a concrete wall to create an entrance. Then, he used the excavator as a support. Watch how carefully and precisely he does this. It looks like the machine is about to tip over at any moment, but the operator knows what he's doing. He carefully lowers the machine down. In the Netherlands, a man witnessed a driver speeding down the street and caught it on video. The driver lost control during a turn and crashed into a parked smart car on the side of the road. The smart car fell into the water and sank. To top it off, the driver also damaged the stairs to a nearby house. Realizing the chaos he had caused, the driver decided to flee the scene. A surveillance camera at an intersection in Tomazo, Slovakia recorded the moment of a serious accident. The police were chasing a suspect who had refused to stop when ordered. At the intersection, the suspect's car collided with two other vehicles. The police car was also damaged as it couldn't brake in time. Just look at the horrific scenes later captured by witnesses as they cleared the aftermath. The cars were completely wrecked, far beyond repair. Those inside the vehicles suffered serious injuries. Debris and car parts were scattered for dozens of meters around. The safety protocols of these construction workers are simply brilliant. A noose around the neck, with the other end held by a child. Seems pretty reliable, unless, of course, you plan on falling. Workers laid a new water pipe across the field. To do this, they dug a trench and connected dozens of pipe sections. When everything was ready, they pushed part of the pipe, and it began falling into place like dominoes. It looks really cool. Two wheels came off a truck while it was moving and started overtaking the vehicle. The driver must have been very surprised to see his own wheels rolling ahead of him. They kept going for several hundred meters before veering off the side of the road. Remember how the Polish guys were ecstatic when they saw a beaver? It seems these guys have created a new meme, this time about a kangaroo. Listen to how loudly and emotionally they're shouting and celebrating. Cross-sea waves are an incredibly beautiful and rare phenomenon that can be seen from above. The waves move towards each other and at one point merge, forming extraordinary patterns that resemble a grid. This looks especially beautiful at sunset when the water takes on a reddish hue. You could watch such a sight for hours, but it usually only lasts a few minutes. This man saw a turtle that had stopped breathing on the beach. It's unclear what had happened to it, but its life was definitely in danger, so he decided to save it. He began performing CPR on the motionless animal. There was water in its lungs, so he pumped it out. After that, the man began giving the turtle artificial respiration, and miraculously, it started to revive. He continued resuscitating it for several minutes until the animal fully recovered. The man released it, and the turtle was able to swim away. This incident proves that there are many kind people in the world. Animals often also help each other, even if they belong to entirely different species. A fish had been thrown near the shore and was trapped. At first, the crow tried to save it, but it was too small for the task. The other bird arrived. At first, it might seem like it wanted to eat the fish, but that's not the case. The bird carried it further and released it away from the shore. The fish was saved. These men were peacefully fishing and enjoying the silence when suddenly a huge plane landed on the water right in front of them. They definitely didn't expect to see that. You seek some peace away from the city and suddenly a plane nearly lands on your head. A climber was ascending a steep rock when suddenly he noticed something going wrong. A piece of the rock broke off and fell just a few meters away from the extreme sportsman. If it had happened in his path, it could have ended tragically. Even professionals who conquer extremely difficult heights are always at risk of encountering such situations. Farm owners saw their buffalo escape from its pen and approach a kid's trampoline. The buffalo didn't seem to like it, so it began attacking. First it climbed on it, trying to trample it, then got down and started hitting it with its horns. When it climbed up again, the buffalo slipped off because the trampoline was too slick. This only made it angrier, and the owners, who were filming the whole thing, had a good laugh. At one point, the buffalo noticed it was being filmed and that the people were laughing, so it acted as if nothing had ever happened and walked away from the now broken trampoline. A clever dog waited for the cat to get distracted so it could quietly steal the cat's food. When the cat noticed, it was furious. It tried to swat the dog with its paw to get the food back. Meanwhile, the dog calmly chewed and swallowed the treat. When the cat realized the food was gone, it was devastated. Just look at that distant stare. Looks like the cat will have to go hungry. My old friend. Tourists relaxing in nature witnessed a firefighting helicopter in action. The helicopter arrived at the river to fill its special bucket with water. The pilot is incredibly skilled. Look at the maneuvers he's doing. He's practically drifting in the air. The pilot scooped up several tons of water and sped off to fight the fire. After dumping the water, he made a sharp turn and flew back to the river for another load. A man tried to trick his dogs but ended up falling off his chair. A bottle hit one of the dogs in the face. The dog didn't waste any time and took revenge of the situation to steal its owner's sandwich. Someone asked artificial intelligence to visualize strongmen from the late 19th century. The result looks truly incredible and very realistic. Just look at these giants, mountains of muscle. The strongmen are twice the size of the people around them. They demonstrate their strength by lifting stones weighing tons and enormous dumbbells. The AI did a fantastic job showing the reactions of the people and the emotions of the giants as they lift the weights. One of them is even wrestling a bear, which looks like a small puppy next to him. This worker clearly doesn't know what safety precautions are if he decided to sit under a working attraction. It moves literally a few centimeters from his head, although perhaps he thinks that wearing a helmet automatically makes him invulnerable to any danger. The spectators are shocked by the worker's calmness and are recording him on their phones. This excavator operator got an unusual tattoo on his arm in the style of his profession. Now he has fun with it. He must really love his job if he decided to do this. And these farmers managed to grow a watermelon of a fantastic size. Just look at it. It's bigger and heavier than a child. The boy climbs on top of it and can't wrap his arms around it. This video is like a real stress reliever. It calms and mesmerizes. You could watch these harvesters collecting grass in the field in perfect acres for a long time. I think perfectionists will enjoy this. Two truck drivers found themselves stuck in a tight corner, unable to turn around due to a lack of space. One driver, however, came up with a creative solution, which was caught on camera by another driver waiting in the traffic jam. The man used a special hydraulic jack to push his truck sideways. At first, it didn't work too well, and the truck moved in the wrong direction. But he eventually managed to correct it, shifting the trailer onto the shoulder so the other driver could pass. A guy decided to film an epic video with his friends where he runs across a rooftop. He probably imagined himself as a character from Assassin's Creed. But he wasn't as skilled as he thought. A few times he slipped, and in the end, he lost his balance and fell off the building. Luckily, it wasn't a high fall and he only ended up with some bruises, so don't try this at home. A driver captured a rare sight of an herbivorous deer eating a large snake. You don't often see this out in nature, as these animals usually feed on grass, leaves, and acorns. However, there are cases where their regular diet just isn't enough and they seek out animal food to fill the gaps. It's unlikely that the deer hunted the snake alive. I agree, it's not the most pleasant thing to watch, but that's nature. Someone's always willing to eat someone else. Several people on a bridge witnessed an accident involving a massive houseboat. It's unclear what caused the incident, but the boat was swept away by the current and crashed into the bridge supports. It seemed like the impact wasn't too strong, and the houseboat could still be saved. But the current was too powerful, turning the boat and pulling it under the bridge. Another strong hit tore off the roof, sending hundreds of kilos of tiles into the water. The walls were also destroyed. What was once an incredible house resembling a work of art was reduced to a pile of debris. Thankfully, no one was inside and no one was hurt. There was an accident involving an overturned SUV and an excavator was brought in to help flip it back over. But something went wrong. The SUV first pushed the excavator, which almost tipped over itself. Then, once the SUV was back on its wheels, it started rolling down a hill. It was as if the car had developed a mind of its own and devised a clever escape plan. The owner could only throw up his hands as the car sped off. The vehicle was finally stopped by some trees. A surveillance camera caught a tree falling during a storm. The strong winds brought it down onto the road, snapping a power line in the process. A cyclist rode straight into this obstacle. Watch as he disappears into the branches and an electrical spark occurs. A man with an umbrella rushed over to help. Thankfully, the cyclist wasn't hurt. He should probably check his brakes though. Tourists witnessed a wooden stilt house swaying dangerously during a storm as waves struck it. They sat down to watch the show. It was probably a unique hotel on the seashore or someone's cottage. With each wave, the stilts bent more and more. It's a thrilling sight even when you realize disaster is inevitable, and you're just waiting to see how it ends. People were cheering with excitement. Finally, the stilts gave way and the house collapsed. Incredibly, it landed perfectly without falling apart. During large-scale fires, when firefighting helicopters are in use, suitable water sources aren't always nearby. That's when even regular swimming pools can come in handy. Residents captured on their phones how a helicopter drew water from a pool. The helicopter approaches at high speed, hovers over the pool, and dips its special bucket into the water. It only takes a few seconds before it's off to fight the fire again. Notice the design of the bucket. A man filmed the process up close, showing how the bucket is made from flexible material and stretches out like a balloon. It probably holds several tons of water. Meanwhile, some vacationers were calmly swimming in the pool when the helicopter arrived to take water. People started running in all directions as their belongings and towels flew around. The pilot was being very cautious, given the people nearby. You shouldn't leave pets unattended for a long time. These two dogs were sitting in a room, and one of them decided to chew on a device with a battery and puncture the battery. It started smoking and sparking until it exploded. The fire began to spread on a soft pillow. The dogs just watched as a huge fire started in the middle of the room. They couldn't do anything, but you can see in the video that they were worried about what had happened. Fortunately, the four-legged ones weren't injured, but the room was burnt down. That's why pets should always be supervised and kept in a safe place. A very clumsy driver didn't notice a metal post right in the middle of the road. You have to wonder why the post is there in the first place. Now, he'll have to pay a hefty sum of repairs. A police officer was rushing over him. Hopefully, he didn't get a ticket for inattentiveness on top of everything else. A cow wanted to cross the road but was too scared because of the cars constantly passing by. She didn't dare to do it on her own. Just look at her, standing by the crosswalk waiting for help. She probably used to take this path with her shepherd, but all the drivers just passed by, not paying attention to the frightened animal. A man noticed her and understood what she wanted. He approached and guided her across the street. The cow had been waiting for help for a while. Just look at how happy she became when she got the help she needed. After crossing the road, it was as if she thanked the stranger who came to her rescue. He even gave her a goodbye kiss. This is one of the sweetest videos I think I've ever seen. Two motorcyclists loved extreme sports. They didn't choose this rough road for nothing. After gaining speed, their motorcycles flew through the air for several dozen meters before landing. It looks incredibly cool, but don't try to pull off such stunts on your own. These guys are professionals. A truck driver witnessed a massive accident during a snowstorm in icy conditions. Just look at the chaos on the road. Cars keep speeding and crashing into each other. I don't understand why they're going so fast when the road is icy and visibility is poor. Even trucks are getting involved in the pileup. I've lost count of how many vehicles have crashed. How many can you count? A motorcyclist was riding through the woods and strayed onto the wrong territory. A ram appeared out on the road, clearly unhappy with the uninvited guest. It rammed the motorcycle hard and was about to walk away when it realized that the rider hadn't gotten the message the first time. The ram had to remind him again that riding here is off limits. If I were the motorcyclist, I'd be speeding out of there by now. But he either turned out to be too brave or too foolish and decided to push through. This only enraged the ram further and it began chasing the intruder. It looks really terrifying, like a nightmare where you're trying to escape from danger but just can't. If the ram had flashing lights on its head, this chase would have been even more epic. These huge, fluffy moths are Cercopia moths. They are the largest found in North America. These giant silk moths have a wingspan of 13 to 18 centimeters. They live in deciduous forests east of the Rocky Mountains in the United States and Canada. They are even bigger than some birds, and their colorful coloring makes them one of the most beautiful and unusual creatures you can find in this area. This is a huge gorge. It formed tens of thousands of years ago. It's likely that there was once a river there. A tectonic rift occurred. Now, a river flows along its bottom, and the slopes are overgrown with greenery. Fields and settlements surround the gorge. There's animosity between these two cats, but a man with a container lid keeps them from fighting. When the barrier is in place, they calm down. But as soon as the lid is lifted, they start meowing and prepare to attack each other again. Have you ever seen how funny lizards run on their hind legs? It's like something from a cartoon. Look at how comically she moves her legs, as if in a hurry to get somewhere. This species, the superb Saranda lizard, has beautiful coloring. During mating season, the males start running on two legs to proudly show off and attract mates. Some girls wanted to film a cool video for their social media and placed their phone in the elevator, but something went wrong, and the real star of the video wasn't them, but an elderly man who called the elevator. He probably didn't even realize he was being filmed. I can only imagine how much the girls laughed when they watched what the camera captured. This is why it's important to follow traffic rules, especially in bad weather when the road is icy. The driver saw a car braking ahead. A truck began dangerously overtaking it. The driver couldn't brake due to the slippery road and had to make a dangerous maneuver. He veered into the oncoming lane where a semi-truck was approaching. The semi-truck driver immediately began to swerve onto the shoulder, but an accident was inevitable. A man was flying on a hang glider when a black vulture joined him. At first, the bird accompanied him, flying alongside, sometimes descending, sometimes ascending. Then, it decided to sit down for a rest. The vulture wasn't afraid of the man and even allowed itself to be petted. Notice that there's a tag on its right leg, so it might be a tame bird. That's probably why it's not afraid of people. Finally, the eagle decided to nibble on the man's shoe. Two workers quarreled and decided to give each other a beating at the construction site. They used everything that came to hand. The man who threw a stick at his colleague didn't expect to get a beating in return. This is the moment when a column of ash erupted from the Ubico volcano in the Kuril Islands. A massive cloud rose hundreds of meters into the air. Tourists who were walking nearby managed to film it. According to them, a new crater formed there. It's an extraordinary sight that not everyone is lucky enough to see alive, and so close to the volcano itself. Would you like to see something like this with your own eyes someday? Write it down in the comments. A surveillance camera at a gym recorded an unusual event. A man broke in at night, but he didn't steal anything. Instead, he decided to work out on the machines. He was clearly not a pro and his workout was pretty funny. Just watch how he struggles to do pull-ups. I don't think that machine is meant for that. He was probably too shy to work out in front of others, so he decided to break in. After a little exercise, he felt a burst of energy, shadowboxed the air, and for some reason tried to climb behind a machine. Eventually, the man left the gym. In North Carolina, drivers witnessed a truck carrying a howitzer break down right on the railway crossing. The vehicle, weighing tens of tons, blocked the tracks. At that moment, a freight train was due to pass. The truck driver had no choice but to leave the cab. The train couldn't stop quickly upon seeing the obstacle and rammed into the truck with the howitzer. The impact was incredible. The howitzer's turret was twisted around, the truck's platform was smashed into pieces, and the train kept on moving as if it hadn't suffered any damage. Eventually, the train did come to a stop. Several drivers were able to capture this event from different angles. It's astonishing how powerful that locomotive was, destroying such a massive obstacle in its path. The truck driver seemed to enter a turbulent zone. Look how he started shaking. It was as if he were on a vibration machine at the gym. But the road looks smooth. He should probably visit a service station because his truck might fall apart sooner rather than later from all that shaking. The engine in the car overheated and the driver saw steam coming out from under the hood. He decided to unscrew the expansion tank to relieve the pressure, and his friend was filming at the time. The pressure was so strong that the cap blew off. A loud explosion followed. It was incredible how a cloud of steam and boiling liquid shot several meters into the air. It was like dropping Mentos into a bottle of soda. The man did injure his hand and suffered burns. It looks like a volcanic eruption after all. Workers were trying to pull a truck out of the water, but something went wrong and the cable securing the vehicle snapped. The truck fell back into the water and dragged a small tractor along with it. The tractor dramatically plunged into the water, twisting in the air. Hopefully, no one was hurt. When a football game is more important than a tornado, a massive dust devil towering tens of meters high formed right on the field. It added a sense of epicness to the game. When the players realized that the spectators and cheerleaders were running away, they decided to call a timeout. They must experience this often. Look at how unfazed the football players look, as if nothing unusual has happened. This incident happened in a quarry. Apparently, the river located upstream nearby overflowed and water started flowing down uncontrollably. Along with the water, rocks began to tumble down. At first, the excavator driver tried to hold back the flow by standing in the path of the rock-filled river, but he quickly realized that this was a bad idea. His colleagues began to quickly run to a safe place. The driver himself decided to evacuate his machine. The excavator was nearly swept away by the flow. Just look at how quickly it starts to expand and with tremendous force floods the quarry. One of the excavators standing nearby was almost completely buried under rocks and soil. An urgent evacuation of the equipment from the quarry began. Dozens of trucks and excavators began to drive out with the workers to a safe place. This is what a waterspout looks like. These people who were sailing nearby managed to capture this incredibly beautiful phenomenon. The vortex was an uneven shape. It seems to connect with the sky and the water surface. The waterspout is almost transparent because it's made of water droplets and vapor, unlike regular land-based tornadoes filled with dust. It's passing quite close to the boat, so it's dangerous for the passengers. It may seem like a waterspout is still, but if you look at the base, you can see it spinning at a tremendous speed. So, the tourists decided to sail away from it and avoid getting into any trouble. A surveillance camera captured a motorboat speeding along. The driver didn't notice a taut rope stretching across the water and crashed into it. The boat instantly stopped and flipped over. It was severely damaged in the accident. A dust devil formed near a military base. One of the soldiers decided to run into its center. Just look at how enthusiastically and joyfully he does it. You can see that a few more soldiers decide to do the same, but this is very dangerous. Never do what they did. Even a small dust devil can cause injuries, especially if there's debris in the airflow that can knock you down and cause harm. Who do you think is faster, a powerful truck or a regular garbage truck? Don't make any hasty judgments. The car's dash cam captured the moment that two drivers at a traffic light decided to have a race. The drivers revved their engines and black smoke billowed from the exhaust pipes. It looks really epic. But when the light turned green, the truck pulled ahead at first. But it seems the garbage truck driver decided to give his competitor a head start because he easily overtook the truck and sped off at high speed. This is why you shouldn't judge by appearances alone. A skateboarder wanted to show off a cool trick, but the audience liked it even more when he saved his skateboard at the last second from falling into the water. Just a moment later, and he would have had to dive in to retrieve it. A biker was enjoying the thrill of speeding down a nearly empty highway, recording it with his action camera. He accelerated to nearly 170 miles per hour when suddenly a car crossed the road ahead of him, heading for an exit. He missed the car by just a few centimeters. It could have ended very tragically. This is why speeding is so dangerous. Hazards can appear when you least expect them. Usually, bushes are trimmed into interesting shapes, but have you ever seen anything like that done with giant trees? This one was shaped into a heart. It looks beautiful. Now this spot has a new location for couples to take photos together. Which video did you like the most? Let us know down in the comments section, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any new exciting collections. See you next time.